Clyde, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
We're here at the Clyde Wright Pitching School. Tell me what happens here.
Well, the kids sign up to take pitching lessons from myself, and when they come in, I teach them how to pitch, and then they have the big batting cages here. It's owned by Alpino, so you know, eventually all the kids learn how to hit too.
How many years have you been running the school?
I've been here, I think, somewhere around 15 years.
And what's the average daily routine? How many kids do you see in a day, and what are you trying to teach them?
Well, I take 4 kids each hour, because 2 pitch, and then 2 rest, and then 2 pitch, 2 rest. I take 4 kids an hour, and the basic thing that I'm trying to teach them is how to use their legs, how to use their body, to where they have a less chance of getting hurt when they get older and throw the ball harder. It's just the funnel techniques of pitching. Now, the older kids I've got, you know, will go into the curveballs, straight change-ups, the sliders, and all these things. But the young kids in Little League, it's just strictly, you know, fastball, low change-up.
What are the age ranges of kids that you work with? I
start the kids at 9 years old. The oldest one I've got is a 48-year-old gentleman. He goes to the Baltimore's fantasy camp every year. And he comes to me to get in shape to go to the Baltimore fantasy camp every year.
What is it about working with kids in particular that you like?
Well, the biggest thing is to watch the kids grow up, then end up in college, or like my son and a few other guys end up, you know, with a good chance of playing professional baseball. Right now, in the 15 years I've been here, there's been about, I'd say about 50 kids that have signed to play pro baseball. Some of the kids are already in the big leagues. You know, but on the other hand, we do have maybe 150 kids in those 15 years that have gotten full scholarships to go on to college.
What are you looking for in a young kid? What can you see that will predict whether he'll make it or not?
Well, there's really not that much you can see to predict whether a kid's going to make it in the big leagues or not. It's like the parents ask me, well, Clyde, is my son going to play in the big leagues? I said, well, if you answer my question, I'll answer yours. I said, if you take 12 little girls that are 12 years old, and you tell me which one's going to be Miss America, then I'll tell you if your kid can, you know, play in the big leagues.
What percent is you know, perspiration? What percent is inspiration? How much is raw talent, and how much is really the kid's willingness to work hard?
Well, you see a lot of kids that doesn't have a lot of talent that play in the big league because they really want to work at it. That's really what they want to do. But I found out that the kids that have the raw talent, 9 times out of 10 are the laziest kids, you know, of the bunch. But you do have to have some talent to play. And if you've got the talent, you have to develop it and take it on to another level.
Let's talk about your career for a minute. How did you get started in baseball?
Well, when I grew up in Tennessee. And my father and mother lived on a farm. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister. So every time we'd get a chance to play catch, we didn't have to go look for a neighbor to play catch because I had the 5 brothers. If we wanted to fight, we didn't have to go far to look for a fight. We had the, you know, the brothers. But all the time we grew up, we just had a chance to play catch. And as we got older, we got a little bit better. And finally, you know, a couple of the coaches saw us that were from the high school. And, you know, I didn't play Little League. I started when I was in high school. And then eventually I went to college and developed from there.
And when were you signed, and who were you signed to in the pros?
I signed in 1965 after I graduated from college, and I signed with the California Angels.
Right away?
Right away. As quick as I graduated from college, I signed that summer, and I went off to play A-ball in Quad Cities, Iowa.
And how long did you play in the minors before you moved up?
I played a total of 4 months. And people asked me, they said, well, you must have been pretty good. I said, well, there was 2 things that happened. I was pretty good at the time, and the Angels were pretty bad, so it was kind of, you know, a nice little marriage there. They needed pitchers, and I was the best one they had in the minor league system at the time.
So now, how different were the salaries back then in the late 60s compared to today?
Well, there's a couple of dollars difference. I know when I signed, I got $10,000. And my son signed a year and a half ago with the Cleveland Indians. He got $1,200,000. So there's a little bit of difference in them now. It's just like the salaries in Japan. Now, back 20, 25 years ago, the owners made all the money. Now the players are making, some, not pretty good money. They're making super good money. And it's, carried on over in Japan too now. The big superstars over there make an awfully good living playing baseball.
What were some of your highlights with the Angels? I know you had a no-hitter. What do you remember about your time with them?
It's not the no-hitter. It's not the games that pitched and stuff. I remember the guys that I played with. Fergosi, Knopp, Bob Rogers. I remember, going on the road trips, and I'd run into the other guys from the other teams. Reggie Jackson, Stottlemyre from the Yankees, Palmer from Baltimore, Andy Etcheburn from Baltimore. I'd get to go out with these guys, and what we do is we'd talk about baseball, what it's like, playing the big league, playing baseball.
Those are the highlights.
Sure. You forget about the number of games you won, the number of games you lost and stuff. The only memories you carry, really, are the ones that, the guys that you went around with.
Are you the only Angel to have, besides Nolan Ryan, to have a no-hitter?
Oh, no. Mike Witt threw a perfect game in Texas. I'm the first one in Angel Stadium to throw a no-hitter in the new stadium they built in '66.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bo Berlinski threw the first no-hitter for the Angels back in, I think it was 62 or 63.
But you're part of a sort of an elect club, though, of no-hitter pitchers.
I'm in a select club. Once you throw a no-hitter, you are in a select club. The thing about it, I'm in two select groups. I'm in the one for throwing a no-hitter. I'm in the one for winning 20 games. And I'm also in the other one for losing 20 games. So I'm in three pretty good categories. You have to pitch a lot of innings to do either one of them.
You're also in a select club of people who have played in Japan. Can you talk about your years in Japan?
Playing in Japan was very, very difficult for me because it wasn't the people now, the fans. Because I got along with the fans loved me because I would give them baseballs, I would give them gloves and all this. I could not get along with a couple of the people in the front office. That was my downfall in Japan. But as far as playing with Nakashima, Harimoto, Oshugi, these guys, Wakamatsu, I'd do it all over again. I'd love to go back and play. But there's one thing that tells me I can't go, and that's old age.
What did you notice that was different about Japanese baseball compared to American ball when you were there?
Well, in Japanese baseball, they play, they play three ways. They either play to win, not to lose, or they play for a tie. See, a tie counts, a half a win, a half a loss, and it can be a big meaning in the standings toward the end of the year. And the other thing, if you don't finish so many games a year, you can be playing the games after the season when the other two teams are playing in the World Series. But the one big thing, it's kind of changed now, and it's changed for the better, because when I was over there, and I can understand this, I'm over there taking some job away from a Japanese baseball player. And if one of them, the Japanese came over here and took my job, I would resent it. And they would resent it because I was taking some kid's job over there. And, that's kind of the way I felt when I was over there, because I was taking somebody else's job and they didn't want me there at the time.
What about the differences in training between the two countries?
Well, there's no comparison to the training. As far as the Americans are concerned, we're a bunch, it's almost like nothing compared to the training they do. I don't think there's been an American go over there that can go through the Japanese training program day after day after day and do everything that they do, because they are tremendously in shape when it comes to playing the sport. They have a lot of pride in it. And it's not only baseball in Japan, it's everything the Japanese people do. They try to do it to the best of their ability, and they'll push themselves to the limit. to get there.
So were you on a separate, let's say, training program from, let's say, Horiuchi or one of the other pitchers? Were you on the same program as them?
Sure, because I couldn't do all the stuff that Horiuchi done. I could not run all those distances and stuff. I couldn't, I remember one day we had to throw 300 pitches in a practice session. Well, there's no way I could throw 300 pitches, but the Japanese players did, the pitchers. And you have to have an awful lot of respect for the Japanese players over there after the training period that they go through. And then, go out and play 130 games during the year.
Mm. Do you think it's to the extent that it's harmful? Is too much practice not good, or what?
Who can say? They have their guys over there, Mr. O. He's hit more home runs than anybody in the world. He goes through it. Harimoto hits 300 for 20 years. He goes through it. You can't say whether one's bad or one's good. They do it their way. We do it our way. It's nothing good about it. There's nothing bad about it. It's just their way of doing it, and that's the way they're going to do it, and that's fine.
What are your memories of some of the Japanese ball players when you were
there? A lot of times when we played, you could not pitch inside because they would think you were trying to hit them, right? And a couple of times I did hit a couple of Japanese players because I'd been hit or Davy Johnson had been hit with the Giants. But it was all in the spirit of, winning. You try to win. I don't like to lose. I never did. And I'm sure the Japanese players don't like to lose. And we got in a couple of fights, here and there along the road. But I got to tell you the story. The one big thing I remember is Mr. Osugi that played with the Yakult Swallows. He came to bat one night at our stadium, in Giant Stadium, and he asked me, he said, would you present me a nice little fastball where I can hit a home run? So I told him yes, right? So I threw it right down the middle, and Osugi hit a home run. And he rounds third base, and he tips his hat to me, right? Now, who knows if he's going to hit the home run or not, right? I didn't know it. He didn't know it. But it just so happened that way, and it was real funny, that it actually happened after I told him, I would do that.
You faced American batters and Japanese batters.
Yeah.
Where does an O or a Harimoto or those great players rank in terms of American batters?
Well, over here, they would be in the top 10% of the batters here. O can hit, Harimoto can hit. O might not hit as many home runs, but he would still hit for a good average. He would still drive in a lot of runs. He's a super filling first baseman. Now, Harimoto, to me, he can hit. He would probably hit 300 every year in American League or National League over here. But if you ask Harimoto what he would hit over here, what Harimoto would say, maybe 500, 600, right? But that was the kind of competitor Harimoto was. And Nakashima was the same way. I think there's only been one time in the Japanese history that the emperor ever came to watch a baseball player, and that was Nakashima. And if you remember, he hit a home run in the 9th inning to win a baseball game in Japan.
How did your pitching change, or did it change after being in Japan?
It didn't change. I just got stronger in Japan from throwing all the time. And eventually, I just couldn't take it anymore. My arm got sore, and I flew home to have it checked, and there wasn't nothing torn up in it. I was just tired. I've thrown so many pitches that, there was no more left in it over there. And that was it.
Are you glad you went over?
Oh, sure. I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. And right now, the big thing is I get to go back. I get to go back and see those guys. A lot of people, a lot of athletes never get a chance to go back and see some of the people that they grew up with, that they played with and stuff. That's the one big fault I have with the American baseball program here. We very seldom get a chance to see guys that we played against or played with 20 years ago. But every time I get invited back to go play the Golden Players Club, I love to go over there because I get to see old Nakashima, Tabuchi, Horiuchi, all the guys, that I played with or against. And it's fun to do it.
Tell us about your last trip over there.
Well, the last trip, we had a bunch of American players that played over there. Leron Lee, John Ship, and a bunch of us. And we go down in the town of Kobe, where they had the earthquake. And I had been to Kobe before, and I could not believe that the freeway was gone. All the roads were wiped out. A lot of the buildings were gone, but yet the Japanese people, now this is all in a period of 6 months, they have cleaned away all the debris and started rebuilding already. They've already got the columns up for the roads. They got new houses going in. You have to go see Japan to see how it's like downtown. It's building, 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 building. And in Kobe, we'd see 2 buildings, 1 missing, 2 buildings, 3 missing. But all of them were started back building already, new. But the thing that really got to us is all the players went down to the grammar school. And we had lunch with a lot of the kids, in the grammar schools. Then we went outside and played a baseball game with them. And you sit around and you think, now, these kids are the ones that lost their parents, lost their brothers, their uncles, aunts, grandma, grandpa, and yet here they are again, right back at it again. Go ahead and live on. But we knew that a lot of those kids had lost a lot of relatives in the earthquake. But it didn't take long to them forget. Well, they're not going to forget, but I mean to rebuild it in their society again.
So you're back there once or twice a year?
Once or twice a year, we go back and we do something. One year we went over and played a celebrity softball game, which is a lot of fun with, some guys on television. I talked to Harimoto this year when I was over there. I wanted him to get, together a golf tour, a golf tournament. Have one American player and one Japanese player as partners. See? And then invite business people, to join the group and just stay over there and play golf for, a week, which I think would be fun. It's really nice to go back and do things with these guys. And I found out, playing golf in Japan, it's just like playing golf here. They got phony handicaps too, see. Some of them are pretty good golfers.
Now tell us about your family. They're pretty athletic, I understand.
My son signed with the Cleveland Indians a year and a half ago. I have a 17-year-old daughter who runs track in high school. She plays on the volleyball team. She's the captain of the drill team, and she plays soccer. And I asked her, I said, well, I never see you anymore. It's every time she gets up in the morning, I need money for this, money for that, then she's gone, right? But she's a good kid. Now I have a 13-year-old daughter who's, she doesn't play baseball, basketball, or anything right now. She's straight A student. So, she likes to go around different places like Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, all these places. And then I have an 11-year-old son who's now just starting to get into baseball. So he's going to be a lot faster than Dad was running.
How's your oldest son, doing now in the big leagues?
My oldest son will probably end up at Canton, Ohio this year, which is AA for the Indians. And people ask me, can he throw harder than you can? He sure can. He can get it up around 96, 97 miles an hour. He's a big kid. He's 6'2", about 225. And I think he's a little bit on the crazy side, too, when it comes to pitching.
So he's at AA, from there AAA, and then the majors?
Well, you can't tell. He might go from AA to the majors. You can't tell. It all depends on who gets hurt in front of him, what they need and what they're looking for. You can't tell.
Now, how did you ever get that nickname Crazy? You're sitting here, you're a normal person. Why would they call you Crazy Clyde Wright?
Oh, there was a lot of things that happened in Japan, where I got the name. Let me tell you a little story. My son, when we were in Japan, is a year old. And the neatest thing they ever did was they made a giant uniform up for him and put on the back of it, Crazy 1/2. And my son, we've kept it all this time. And I have it as a trophy in my trophy case, right? Crazy 1/2. Now, some of the things I did over there were dumb on my part, right? But I did them for a reason. It's like when they would take me out of a game in the 5th inning. I would get mad because I wanted to win, because I had a contract that would pay me so much money if I won so many games, see. And I didn't want to come out. I wanted to win. That's what they paid me for. That's why I went over there, to win. Some of the other things, just like it all started with the things, from the front office with the Giants over there. It wasn't Shariki. Shariki's been super to me. It was just one of the general managers over there who is now passed away. That's what got it all started. But if I had to do it over again, I'd go over there again and play. Because I got to see how the Japanese people live. I got to see how they work. And it's amazing how they take care of each other. I've seen the women in the rice fields and, the fruits and all this built on the side of the hill, the fruit trees, the tea farms and all this. And it's amazing how hard the Japanese people work to make a living.
So when you would, like, throw helmets or knock over a water cooler, you wanted to win. And you were upset about that.
That's the winning attitude, the fight that's put inside of you. I think there was a couple of people over there that understood, Clyde Wright inside very well, and that was Mr. O and Nakashima. I think Nakashima understood very well. And sometimes I would holler at another batter, and then I would turn around and I'd kind of wink at Mr. O, right, and he says, I understand. You want to try to scare him, to make him afraid of you, to where he don't hit you hard. And sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. But that's where all the crazy things started and all that. And another one is we got in a couple of fights in bars at night over there and stuff. So, crazy wasn't a bad word.
Who was the greatest ball player you saw over there?
Over there? Oh, it had to be O. Because, see, I didn't see Nakashima play. Now, they had some players over there that could play. Tabuchi played at Hanchi. And then, I can sit here, I can see their faces. I can't remember all of the names and stuff. The big first baseman, Matsubara, that played with the Taiyo Whales. They're all good players. Harimoto, they could play. We had some super pitchers, over there. They had the two big pitchers from the Hankyu Braves. I can't, Yamada and Yamaguchi.
The sidewinder,
yeah. The underarm. They're just super.
What about O in particular? Why was he so great?
Because when I was over there, O was probably the oldest player on the club. He did the same thing that all the rookie guys did, or the guys that had been there 2 or 3 years. He didn't back out of the running. He didn't back out of going to get up to take a walk with them at 7 o'clock in the morning. He did everything they did. And I know that guy was a superstar. Now, if you notice over here in America, the superstars don't do all that. They let somebody else do it for them all the time. But I noticed, he would be the first one there and the last one to leave all the time. Same way with Nakashima and Harimoto. They were there. They didn't slack off on any of the running or anything. They went through it just like all the other guys.
What are the chances of your son playing ball in Japan someday?
In Japan? There's a possibility. And, I would love for him to play in Japan. Maybe for a year or maybe for 2 years. Just to see what it's like to have an idea of how other people live, the Japanese culture and all this stuff. It would be super fun. It would make him stronger. I know some of the things that, I've taken from there. Made me a lot stronger. The Japanese people, they take care of each other. They don't worry too much about what's happening over here or over there, They want to take care of each other. And you've got to respect them for taking care of their own.
Now, aside from your pitching school, you also travel around the country. You're giving lectures and speeches. What is that about?
Well, I still work for the California Angels. I do a lot of speaking engagements on drugs and alcohol. And most of the people know that when I was in Japan, I could drink. I ran into a few bars while I was in Japan, but I don't drink anymore. It's been 18 years since I've had a drink. And I talk to kids and stuff about staying in school, about drinking and all this stuff. And I try to help them stay in school.
So mainly at schools you speak?
Well, a lot of them are at school. the most of them. I go speak to, groups like the Rotary Club and all of these different organizations, but I still work for the California Eagles.
Do people still recognize you in either in the States or in Japan on the street?
Oh, sure.
What's
It's
that like?
Sometimes, well, sure you like it. If they don't recognize you, you say, that guy don't know who I am. Huh? I've got to tell you, the other day they called me and they just voted me into the Orange County Hall of Fame, which is the one here, in Southern California. And I'm proud of that. Now, the thing about it now is I used to be Clyde Wright, the baseball player. Now I'm Clyde Wright. I'm Jared's father. See? So it all comes around in time. It's just like Ken Griffey and his dad, right? It's like Mel Stottlemyre and his son. It all changes around. Hal McRae and his son. We're the fathers now of the baseball players. We're not baseball players anymore. We're the fathers.
Back to Japan. Talk about the strike zone. What was that like for you?
I don't know. I never found a strike zone in Japan. It would change every day, every inning, every hitter, because they used to kid me about Mr. O's strike zone, right? A normal strike zone is like this. Mr. O's strike zone was like this. The other players on the other teams used to tell me, Mr. O's strike zone. Well, they had, superstars on the other teams too, and their strike zone was the same way. But I was very fortunate because I played with the Giants. And if I played with another club over there, I don't think I would have been too successful. But I played with the Giants, who, are very, very popular.
Was it lower in general, or just dependent on the player? Is that what you're saying?
Depends on the player. It all depends on some of the umpires you get to. It's just like here in the States. If an umpire's had a bad day, he'll have a bad game. If he's had a good day, he'll have a good game. It all depends. You just have to figure out in the first couple of innings which way it's going to go, then you kind of have to adjust. But I noticed over there the strike zone was a lot bigger, on the American players. Because not because they were trying to hurt the American players. I think because the umpires think the American players are a lot bigger, they should have a bigger strike zone. I know when I pitched to American guys over there, I throw a pitch that far outside, strike. But that's the way it was. You learn to live with it.
What do you think of Nomo? You've seen some of his pitching.
Nomo, he's not the only Japanese player that could play here in the States. They've got quite a few players that can play over here. The pitchers. Oh, they had some hitters, that could play over there. Nomo happened to come along at the right time for the Dodgers. Because, as you know, we have a huge Japanese population up in L.A. He's a Japanese player. He's playing in the big leagues. He's on television all the time. And to the Japanese people here, to him, it's just like when I grew up as a kid in my little old town in Tennessee. I was their hero. Nomo's their hero here. Plus, back in Japan. Now, I've seen tapes of Nomo's picture all over Japan, doing commercials and stuff. And it's just super. We're not that far apart, the Americans, the Japanese, the Puerto Ricans and all this as far as playing baseball. One of these years, it's going to get closer and they're going to have really a World Series. They're going to have 5 or 6 different teams from 5 or 6 different nations. Mexico, Japan, China's starting baseball now. Australia starting baseball. So one of these days, I hope I live long enough to where I can see about 8 or 10 teams play in a truly World Series.
What are the strengths of American baseball and the strengths of Japanese baseball?
Well, the strengths for American baseball is they're bigger and stronger. The Japanese players, they have better technique because they practice it a lot more. Over here, you can see a guy go out at shortstop and take 15 ground balls, right? He's finished. He'll go in and take a shower, right? In Japan, 100, 200, 300, doesn't matter. They stay there until a coach tells them that's enough. And very seldom they don't get enough. They just keep practicing.